What's good, YouTube? It's your boy JR Sports, and with free agency officially starting tomorrow, March 14th, I'm about to give you guys my list of who I think we should target with the cap space we have left. Keep in mind, a lot of things have changed. We re-signed Mike Williams, and we traded for Khalil Mack. Those two things have really, in my opinion, they didn't really alter how we should approach this free agency, but it did alter the amount of money we have left. So with that being said, let's get into it. I'm just going to start with the obvious one, J.C. Jackson. To me, we either get J.C. Jackson or we don't go for a corner in free agency. It's not that I don't like Carlton Davis. It's not that I don't like Bradbury if he becomes available. It's not that I don't like any of these other guys. They're just not J.C. Jackson. To me, they're not a true number one corner who's a shutdown corner who you could tell him, you know what, follow this guy. To me, that's what J.C. Jackson presents, and to me, that's what this defense needs. If you guys watch any of my previous videos, you know I've said Michael Davis is not meant for the system. He's not a quarterback. He's not a cornerback one. He might be our number two, which will push Asante Samuel to the slot. But for me personally, I just don't think Michael Davis is a corner meant for this defense. So for me, it's cornerback or bust with J.C. Jackson in regards to how we address the cornerback position in regards to free agency. All right, number two. The second guy we want to target, I'm just going to start naming the people that everybody knows, the obvious ones, all right? Bobby Wagner. Listen, I've had people on Twitter tell me, oh, why would you choose Bobby Wagner over Kyzir White? And to me, that's not a difficult question to answer. One, Kyzir White plays weak side linebacker. That's the position we truly brought him into play. He was a safety in college. We converted him into a linebacker in the pros, a weak side linebacker. Can he play the middle linebacker position? Yes, he can. Can he play it as highly as Bobby Wagner? Definitely not. Bobby Wagner is a future Hall of Famer. He just came off having a 170 tackle season. Nobody in the Chargers was close to that. So to me, it's like a no-brainer. Like, if Bobby Wagner wants to come home to LA, you go get Bobby Wagner and put him in this defense. He's a run stuffer who's going to help us in the run, and he's a true three-down linebacker. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get rid of Kyzir. Kyzir could play the weak side. We might have to get Kyzir if he's asking for too much money. But if you had to tell me, do you want to pick future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner coming off a 170 tackle season or a converted weak side linebacker to play our middle linebacker position, to me that's a no-brainer. So for me, the second person I'd like us to target is Bobby Wagner. Number three, and this is also a popular one going around, Akiem Hicks. Probably you guys are like, yo, he's just going off what he hears on Twitter. But, all these make sense. Akiem Hicks, history with Brandon Staley. He basically is a nose tackle. He could stuff up the middle. People are going to be like, oh, well, he's too old. But we don't need him for that long. We need him for this season, help see what he does with his defense, coach up some of the newer guys. But if you guys are crazy if you guys don't think Akiem Hicks would help solidify the interior of this defense. You put him in the middle in between Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Boy, oh boy, good luck to the AFC West quarterbacks. So Akiem Hicks is another name I'd like to target. His injuries do concern me a bit. But if we could stay healthy into the playoffs, I don't expect Akiem Hicks to be able to play a full season, if I'm being honest with you guys. He's going to miss some games. But if those games happen in between, right before the playoffs, and he's healthy for the playoffs, to me that's a W. So Akiem Hicks is a name that I would like us to target for the right price as well. For me, I've said it, I like Farham as a tight end. I think he's a developmental piece, but we do need more tight ends. Two names I'd like to see us go after is Tyler Conklin or O.J. Howard. Tyler Conklin, I think that's a name not a lot of people are talking about. In that Vikings offense, he really didn't get a chance to flourish, and they kept drafting tight ends or bringing in tight ends. At one point, they had, what's that cat's name? Kyle Rudolph, and then they just drafted a tight end. So Tyler Conklin never really got a chance to show what he's got, and when he did play, for me, he flashed. I picked him up a couple times in fantasy thinking he was ready to break out. Then the other name is O.J. Howard. I think people have forgotten of O.J. Howard, and I don't think he ever got a fair shot. So he tore his ACL, then he comes back, and Tom Brady's there, and then they bring Gronk. And I don't think it's necessarily to do with whether or not O.J. Howard could play. I think it had to do with you bring in Tom Brady, you bring in his guys. O.J. Howard was a first-round pick, and he's a matchup nightmare. You put him in this offense with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, there's mismatches all over the field. You cannot guard this guy, and I can only imagine how a two tight end set with him and Parham, two guys that are about 6'5" and taller. Good luck guarding that. So those are two tight ends I'd like to see us target. I don't think either of them would be relatively expensive, but if I had to pick one, I would definitely go with OJ Howard. Another player I'd like to see us target, specifically another defensive tackle, is Sebastian Joseph Day. He's a D tackle for the Rams. He's 26 years old. He was a 6th-round pick, and he actually played very, very well for the Rams last year, and he was a big reason why that D-line was dominant. A lot of people like to focus on the fact that they had Von Miller, that they had Aaron Donald, that they had all the Dante Fowler Jr., but Sebastian Day he actually ranked right behind Aaron Donald on stops per game at 2.76 stops per game. So if you guys are like, oh, Akeem Hicks is too old, he's too old, Sebastian Joseph Day is a good pickup. He can also play the nose tackle, which would be kind of essential to what Staley runs. Staley kind of runs a 3-4, even though he doesn't say he runs a 3-4. But Sebastian Joseph Day could be a plug and play, and he's familiar with Brandon Staley's defense. So that's a plug and play player right there, and we could actually get him cheap since he got injured this last season. So when you factor that, his age, familiarity with the defense, Brandon Staley, I think that would be a good pickup, and I wouldn't be shocked if we actually signed this kid. So be on the lookout for Sebastian Joseph. Another defensive tackle I wouldn't be mad if we target is Vernon Butler. You know, Vernon Butler comes from that Bills defense. If you guys have been watching football, you guys know that Bills defense is legit. That whole D-line is legit. So Vernon Butler is someone who I think could come in and play instantly for us. I mean, anybody could really come and play D-tackle for us right now. Think about it. That's how bad we were. But Vernon Butler would be a good pickup. He is also not that old. It comes from a very well-coached defense, and I think he would do wonders for this defensive line in helping us stop the run. So for me, as you could see, the theme so far has been defense, 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 except for the tight end position, obviously. And I think if you're a Chargers fan, you know why I'm being consistent with it. For a running back, there's actually one running back I'd like to target in free agency. It's not Leonard Fournette. It's actually Rashad Penny. If you guys think about it, Rashad Penny was a first-round draft pick. Whether or not he was a team saw potential in the kid to take him in the first round. I think the problem with Rashad Penny has been injuries, and I think a change of scenery would actually be really, really good for him. If we're able to get Rashad Penny on a cheap deal to complement Austin Eckler, that would be big for us. And I know we've drafted a running back in the past 3 drafts, but none of them have been consistent enough for me to feel comfortable with giving them the ball in certain game situations. And I think Rashad Penny is a good coaching staff away from being able to develop into the running back that I think he can be. So if you bring Rashad Penny and you develop him to complement Austin Eckler, I think that's a great 1-2 punch combo. For wide receiver, there's a couple wide receivers I like for us to target. One of them would be James Washington. If you guys been following football, if you guys been following the NFL, if you guys play fantasy, you guys know about James Washington because he's one of the biggest headaches ever. But I think the biggest deal with him is he just wasn't happy in Pittsburgh. The kid's got talent. If you turn on his tape, he is really, really good, and I think he would complement this offense well. I think he would complement Keenan Allen and Mike Williams well. Now, there's people out there who are high on Jordan Palmer. I am as well. But for me, if you really want to bring more weapons for Justin Herbert, I think just James Washington would be a great pickup, as well as Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller was forgotten about because he was injured and because of the steroids. Yes, he's always hurt. Yes, he drops a lot of balls. But when he's on the field, just that fear of him running by you would open up so many things for this offense. And I've said it time and time again, Keenan Allen is a chain mover, the best at the game at that. Mike Williams we saw him develop this past season into more than just a jump ball wide receiver. Now if you add a guy like Will Fuller to just take the top off of this defense, that would be so big for this offense. I can only imagine Justin Herbert would probably throw for 60 touchdowns with Will Fuller. But again, that's if he stays healthy. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know which one of the players that I named you actually like. I mean, the obvious ones, J.C. Jackson, Bobby Wagner, Akeem Hicks, those are obvious. But, let me know about the other names I said. Which ones do you like? Which ones don't you like? Let me know on some of the free agents you want to see us target tomorrow. And with that said, I'm out.